Hello everyone, welcome to Everyday Education. From today we will be starting our course on modern Indian history, which will be covered from Bipin Chandra and Spectrum. PDF of the lecture has been uploaded. You can now download the PDF by clicking on the link given below in description. Let's now begin with the lecture. Firstly, although Bipin Chandra's modern India starts with decline of Mughal India, but in order to arrange in chronological manner, we will start with advent of Europeans and accordingly we will move forward. Let's have a look at the state of trade and relations of Europeans with India and Southeast Asia. India's trade with Europe dates back to ancient dates of Europe. During Middle Ages, trade between Europe and India and Southeast Asia was carried along several routes, which are as follows. First route was by a sea along Persian Gulf and then by land through Iraq and Turkey, and then by sea to Venice and Genoa. Second was via Red Sea and then overland to Alexandria in Egypt and from there to Venice and Genoa. Third was overland route through pass of northwest frontier of India across Central Asia and Russia to Baltic. All the routes have been marked in the map with the respective serial numbers. At that time, trade was mostly carried on by Arab merchants in Asian part, while Mediterranean and European part was virtual monopoly of the Italians. There were many obstacles while carrying on trade, such as tolls were levied, natural calamities and pirates. Still, it was profitable as Europeans demanded spices for making the meat edible and hence fetched high prices. In 1453, Constantinople fell to Ottoman Turks. Trade route now became monopoly of Arabs and merchandise used to go through this route to European markets. Merchants of Venice and Genoa refused to let new states of Western Europe to pass and trade through these routes, which meant Europeans were now deprived of trade to East. In these circumstances, the Western Europeans were needing to find a direct sea route to India, which was considered as major trade destination. Owing to Renaissance and development in shipbuilding and navigation, intrigued the Europeans to find a new way to prize India and Spice Islands of Indonesia. Economic expansion and growth in agriculture increased demand for spices and luxury goods. In all this, Portugal took responsibility to lead. Prince Henry of Portugal was obsessed with finding a route to India. In 1454, Pope Nicholas V gave Prince Henry a papal bull, which is sort of a charter. It conferred dominion over all lands south of Cape Bozador and to navigate sea till India and fight Islam and profess Christianity. From the map we can see Cape Bozador, and from this boundary he was permitted to lead expedition to east, although he died before he could do wonders. Further in 1487, Bartholomew Dias, a Portuguese navigator, rounded Cape of Good Hope in Africa, and he was convinced that sea route to India has been found after sailing to east coast of Africa. But he was certainly wrong. In 1494, a treaty was signed named as Treaty of Tordesillas, and following this treaty, rulers of Portugal and Spain divided non-Christian world and Christian world by drawing an imaginary line, some 1300 miles west of Cape Verde Islands. Under this treaty, west of the line belonged to Spain and to the east belonged to Portuguese. As we can see in a map, blue marked zones were under Portuguese and red marked under Spain. As these regions were now divided, Portugal was set to find way to India. In 1498, Vasco da Gama led expedition arrived at Calicut and was welcomed by Zamorin. Zamorin was a Hindu king. Vasco da Gama stayed there for 3 months and carried back a rich cargo which got him huge profits back in Europe. In 1500, Pedro Alvarez Cabral undertook a voyage to India, established a factory at Calicut in September 1500. Later on, he made treaties with local rulers of Cochin and Cananore too. Both the places can be seen in map marked by arrows. Later on, Vasco da Gama once again came to India in 1501, set up factory at Cananore. Hence, Calicut, Cochin and Cananore become important trade centers of Portuguese. They slowly got permission to fortify these centers too. Consolidation of Portuguese increasing at this point of time. The King of Portugal appointed Francisco de Almeida as governor for 3 years term to protect Portuguese interest. Almeida was asked to capture major trade routes and build fortresses but met with opposition of Jamorin and threat from Mamluk Sultan of Egypt as Portuguese were threatening their trade hegemony. In 1507, Almeida's son killed in naval battle in Diu by Arab and Gujarat navies combined. In subsequent year, Almeida avenged his son's death by crushing both navies. He wanted to make Portuguese master of India Ocean, and his policy is known as Blue Water Policy or Cartagena system. Alfonso de Albuquerque succeeded as governor in 1509. He is considered as real founder Portuguese power in East as he took Portuguese power at peak. He established bases to look for entrance to sea and had bases at East Africa of Red Sea, at Hormuz, in Malabar and Malacca to counter any threats. He also established permit system for entry of ships and also acquired Goa from Sultan of Bijapur in 1510. He also abolished Sati system, which was part of his religion conversion policy. After Albuquerque, Nino da Cunha assumed office of governor of Portuguese interest in India in November 1529 and shifted headquarters to Goa from Cochin. He attempted to increase Portuguese influence in Bengal by setting Portuguese nationals, as it was major port and had potential to be an important trade destination. It could serve as strategic location too. Now let us see how administration was carried out in India by Portuguese. Head of administration was Viceroy with a term period of 3 years with a secretary. Office of Vedar the Fazend was responsible for revenues and cargoes and dispatch of fleets. Fortresses were under captains who were assisted by factors. Now let us see what was the religious policy of the Portuguese. Portuguese wanted to promote Christianity, and for that they persecuted huge number of Muslims. In the beginning, they were initially quite tolerant towards Hindu, but later, persecutions of Hindu too started. This policy later impacted Portuguese interest in a big way. At that time, Akbar had a policy of mutual understanding and reconciliation among followers of different faiths and equality of all religions. So in 1579, Akbar asked Portuguese to send 2 learned priests as he was impressed with Jesuits. Portuguese accepted and sent Rodolfo Equaviva and Antonio Monserrate in hope to convert the ruler and ultimately convert people in 1580. Similarly, 2 more missions were received by the ruler. Third mission was led by Jerome Xavier and Emmanuel Penheiro, provided important information about Akbar's later part of reign. However, Portuguese failed to impress Akbar. On the basis of Imperial Farman, in 1579, Portuguese settled down on a river bank and strengthened their position by building big buildings, which led to migration of trade from Sadgaon to new port of Hooghly. They monopolized manufacture of salt, levied taxes on tobacco. In 1632, Hooghly was seized by Shah Jahan, reason being religious intolerance. Now, let's shift our focus to what was happening in Britain and how Britishers came to India and events thereon. Francis Drake's voyage around the world in 1580 and English victory over Spanish Armada in 1588 created new sense of enterprise in the Britishers. The English merchants too looked greedily on the Asian trade, but till the end of 16th century, they were too weak to challenge the naval might of Portugal and Spain. In 1599, an English association or company to trade with the East was formed under the auspices of group of merchants known as Merchant Adventurers. Its members' main business was exporting cloth, especially white undyed broadcloth, in return for a large range of foreign goods. The company was granted a royal charter for 15 years and the monopoly to trade in the East by Queen Elizabeth on 31st December 1600. It was popularly known as East India Company. From the beginning, it was linked with the monarchy as Queen Elizabeth was one of the shareholders of the company. Let's now see the structure and administration of the newly formed East India Company. The charter provided for the management of the company by a committee consisting of a governor, a deputy governor, and 24 members to be elected by a general body of the merchants forming the company. This committee later on came to be known as Court of Directors and its members as directors. During early period, earning came from both trade and piracy and there was no distinction between the two. Company paid heavy bribes to monarchs to retain its monopoly in the region. The company acquired extensive military and judicial powers too in the process. There were merchants too, other than the East India Company. They called themselves free merchants, while the company called them interlopers. Company servants were divided in three ranks: writers, factors, and merchants. They all were allowed to trade privately within the country along with salary, but trade between India and Europe was reserved for the company. Let's now see arrival of Dutch. As their period of stay in India was short and for our exam it also doesn't hold much relevance, we will be completing this topic here only, rather than taking about it chronological manner. The States General of Netherlands in 1602 amalgamated many trading companies into East India Company of Netherlands and was empowered to carry on war, acquire territories and erect fortresses. In 1605, they founded their first factory in Masulipatam, captured Nagapatnam from Portuguese and made it their main stronghold in South India. In 1667, both English and Dutch reached to an agreement where British would withdraw from Indonesia and Dutch would retire from India to focus in Indonesia. This was result of Treaty of Breda, which was signed after Second Anglo-Dutch War, which was vowed to end Dutch supremacy in trade. As they were not much interested in building empire in India and were only interested in trade, this led to early departure of Dutch from India. So after East India Company was formed in 1600, in 1608, Captain William Hawkins, a Britisher, arrived with his ship Vector at Surat. Father Pinero and Portuguese authorities tried their best to stop Hawkins from reaching the coast but failed. Hawkins conversed with Jahangir in Turki language and requested the ruler for permission to do business in India. Pleased, Jahangir appointed him as Mansabdar of 400 at salary of Rs 30,000 and permission was granted to trade. This offended the Portuguese and truce established between Portuguese and Mughal Empire. Portuguese stopped the English ships from entering port of Surat. In 1611, Hawkins left Mughal court in anger. In November 1612, English ship Dragon under Captain Thomas Best, along with little ship the Osiander, successfully defeated Portuguese and Jahangir granted to establish factory at Surat. In 1611, English starting trading at Masulipatam. In 1613, Portuguese captured a Mughal ship. It was basically Hajj ship, which carried pilgrims. Its seizure was taken as piracy by Mughals. And enraged Jahangir said Mukarrab Khan, who was then in charge of Surat, to collect compensation. In 1615, Sir Thomas Roy, a Britisher, came to court of Jahangir as ambassador of James and stayed there till 1618 but couldn't conclude a commercial treaty. Through, he got permission to set up factories at various places. Sultan of Golconda in 1632 issued Golden Farman, which improved East India Company's position. They got free hand in trading in port of Golconda. Francis Day, a British merchant in Masulipatam Council, got permission to build a fortified factory at Madras, which later would become Fort St. George and replace headquarters of English settlements in South India. Shah Sujha, the Subedar of Bengal in 1651, allowed the English to trade in Bengal and factory was started at Hooghly and other places. In 1662, Bombay was gifted to King Charles. by King of Portugal as dowry for marrying Princess Catherine in 1662 and further transferred by King Charles to East India Company in 1668. Bombay was to become headquarters as seat of Western Presidency in 1687. Virtually, Portuguese now gave up before Britishers. Now, two arch rivals, Dutch and Portuguese, eliminated by British. So why Portuguese decline? Let's see the reason. First reason is emergence of powerful dynasties in Egypt. Persia and North India and rise of turbulent Marathas in immediate neighbors. Religious policies of Portuguese made people resentful and gave rise to political fears. Carried out dishonest trade activities, which brought them animosity of states and Mughals as well. They were considered as sea pirates. Now, discovery of Brazil and chance to conquer it as colony had turned their focus to west. Earlier monopoly of knowledge of sea route to east was not a secret anymore. Dutch as well as English were interested in East Indies. They had also learned the art of navigating oceans and fierce rivalry had developed among them. As we will see further events, these reasons will become more clear to you. In 1664, back in France, they were planning to make advent into India. Following their ambitious minister, Colbert established Compagnie des Indes Orientales, which was generally known as French East India Company. It was granted 50 years trade monopoly. Structure of the French company is as follows. It had more than 60% share of the monarch and monarch was supposed to appoint directors, who would carry out decisions taken by two high commissioners appointed by the government. Though this power of the state in a company would be detrimental to functioning and later would be responsible for loss of the company against rivals. In 1667, Francois Caron, a French, headed an expedition to India, setting up a factory at Surat. Permission was also taken for establishment of township at Chandarnagar near Calcutta. In 1669, factory at Masulipatam was established. In 1673, Sher Kha Lodi granted Francois Martin, who was director of Masulipatam factory at that time, a site for settlement. In 1674, Pondicherry was founded. Francois Martin replaced Caron as French governor in same year. William Hajes, the governor of East India Company in Bengal, appealed to Shaista Khan, the Mughal governor of Bengal in 1682, for redressal of the grievance at East India Company's business was now and then obstructed by custom officials. So, they wanted to have a fortified settlement in Hooghly. As nothing came out, Mughals after 4 years sacked Hooghly. In 1686, and English were forced to leave Hooghly. Job Charnock, a company agent, started to negotiate to return to a place called Sutanuti. Treaty was finalized in 1690 and permission for trade in Bengal was given in lieu of rupees 3,000 a year. French position was affected many times during this period. In 1693, Dutch captured Pondicherry from French in 1693 by alliancing with English. Although it was restored by Treaty of Ryswick, concluded in 1697. This was possible because of leadership of Francois Martin. In 1706, on death of Francois Martin, in India suffered another setback. Back in Britain after English Revolution of 1688, Parliament was supreme authority. Now William III and his wife were now joint sovereign of Britain. So-called free merchants, or we can call them independent merchants, asserted to trade in Asia, but East India Company somehow managed to maintain monopoly by paying heavy bribes, but did not work for long. Still, East India Company got its new charter in 1693. But in 1694, Parliament passed a new resolution, wherein the subjects of England have equal rights to trade in East Indies. The Whigs, which was a political party, opposed monopoly of East India Company and became its rival and formed a company known as New Company. They gave heavy loan to King in comparison to Old Company and thus monopoly was transferred to the New Company. But Old Company bought large shares in the New Company and influenced its policies. As a result of mutual conflict, In 1708, both companies were under title of United Company of Merchants of England trading to the East Indies. This company was East India Company, which in future will rule until 1873. We are saying 1873 because administration was taken over by Britain government after 1873. In 1696, Shobha Singh, a zamindar in Bardhaman district, rebelled. Shobha Singh rebellion gave chance to Britishers to fortify their settlement at Sultanati, as Britishers were looking for a reason to fortify their centers. This fortified settlement was known as Fort William and became seat of Eastern Presidency, that is Calcutta, with Sir Charles Eyre as its first president. We would like to point out one thing here with respect to uprising and rebellions, that in Spectrum book all the rebellions are mentioned under categories like tribal movements, peasant movements and others. In our lectures, all the rebellions and uprising will be discussed in their respective year as they happened. When we will study them briefly, we ourselves will be able to segregate them as whether it is peasant uprising or tribal. Now continuing with the lecture, in 1698, Britishers further consolidating strength got permission to buy the zamindari of three villages of Sultanati, Gobindapur and Calicut, also known as Kalighat. So students, that is for all today. In the next lecture, we will see how Mughal Empire declined after Aurangzeb's death in 1707 and further consolidation of East India Company. We hope that you liked the video. If you did, make sure to like the video and share it with your friends. Join our Telegram channel too for updates. Link is in the description. Thank you and keep preparing.